Hi, Mike Matthews here with the PT411. Today we're going to be looking at hamstring flexibility and why it's important and when it gets even more important. We're going to look at how we can test out its flexibility, and we're going to see how we can stretch it out easily. So most of you already probably know what the hamstring is, but for a quick refresher here, it's a set of muscles in the back of the thigh here that cross over both the back of the hip and the back of the knee. So as that muscle contracts, as that muscle shortens there, it's going to do two things. It's going to extend the hip back and it's going to bend the knee back. And it can do them independently or it can do them together at the same time. So if we're looking at the opposite of when they shorten, if we're looking at when we're trying to lengthen them, the opposite of the hip extending is the hip flexing here. The opposite of the knee flexing is extending. So we get into this position right here. And so to stretch it out, what you end up seeing usually is people trying to bend their entire body forward, trying to stretch it out here, just to get that really good stretch right here. Now, if you can see here, get back into frame a little bit here. If I keep my knees straight, I can bend almost all the way forward. My hands can be almost completely flat on the ground. But my hamstrings are actually pretty tight, and it's been something I've been working on for a while. I have gotten more flexibility back in them, but not where I need to be. And I'll show you right now what I mean by that. So if I'm sitting here with a nice neutral posture in this lower back and my knees are bent at about a 90-degree angle or back even further, my hamstrings really don't play that much of a role in my posture between my pelvis and my lower back. But for somebody like me who has really tight hamstrings, if I have that back really arched and my pelvis rotated forward here, and I go to extend that knee out, even if I'm keeping the legs somewhat close to the ground, it's going to start pulling on this hamstring. Once it meets its maximum length there, the only thing left to do is for my pelvis to start rotating back this way so that I can extend my knees out further. So now what happens here? Now my back is out of that neutral position. Now I'm more flexed forward right here. And now I'm putting a lot of extra pressure through the front of my spine, compressing those discs, adding a lot of compression that really does not need to be there. So as I'm upright right here, especially throughout the day, if I can keep my knees bent, it takes my hamstrings out of the equation. Like I said, if I have a job where I'm at a desk in front of a computer, or if I'm sitting in class all day, as long as my knees are bent, I'm fine. But the second that I start to need to stretch my legs out, it's going to pull on my back if my hamstrings aren't tight. So let's take a look at testing this muscle out, testing out its length. And so to test this out, you need to lay on your back. You'll see here I have a small t-shirt that I have rolled up right here. That's going to go under the small of your back. And that's just to ensure that you keep a little bit of arch in that back and you're not cheating here. Otherwise, you're not going to get an accurate test result here. So starting off here, we're going to flex our hip up to about a 90-degree angle here. You can put your hands behind your thigh. Now, if you feel like you're crunching too much to reach the back of your thigh here, you can grab onto a towel or a strap to hold onto it there to maintain that thigh in that position. Just make sure you keep that arch in that low back. You're going to straighten out this knee as far as you can, see how high you can get it up there. Now, you see where I'm stopping right here. If I were to purposely round out my upper back, then I'm taking away from here, and now I can straighten out my knee even further since I'm not having that pull on that hamstring behind my hip. But if I keep that back arched and I go up, I stop about right here, a little bit further than that 45-degree angle, but definitely nowhere near where I want it to be. My knee is at 90 degrees here, and as I straighten it out, if I get to about 45 degrees there, I'm going slightly past it. I would definitely like to be getting closer to about a 30-degree angle or something here. So if I flex my hip and I get it about to there, that's about where I'd actually want to be. So anything less than that, you definitely want to start stretching out that hamstring quite a bit. Especially you athletes out there, riding athletes, athletes that have to sprint and run quite a bit. You want every single degree you can get with this, and I'll show you what I'm talking about towards the end of this video here. So to stretch it out, we got to get you back on your feet. Starting position, your feet are about shoulder width apart. So looking at me from the side here, you're going to start off with that back arch in that neutral arch position. You're going to maintain this the entire time as you bend forward. Like I was saying earlier, I can bend my back right here and keep bending more and more forward
I can get my hands pretty much all the way on the ground, almost flat on the ground here. My knees are completely straight before I start to feel that stretch in that low back.
Now if I keep that back nice and arched, and I hinge only at those hips here, and as I hinge to be able to hold that balance, my hips are gonna have to go backwards some. So maintaining that arch, hinging at the hips, letting my pelvis fall backwards there, I'm gonna go forward here until my hamstrings tighten up and they don't let me go any further. Now, if you look at the angle of my hip right there, it's pretty consistent with the same angle my knee was at when we were testing it out on the ground. We're gonna hold this here for about 30 seconds. You wanna do 3 to 5 sets each time you do this. Now, to actually get a good lasting effect here, you're gonna have to do this stretch multiple times a day, 3 times a day. In between sets, you want to let off, let those hamstrings relax a little bit. So as you keep working on this, don't get discouraged when you don't see a difference right away. It takes time to stretch out any tissue in the body, whether it's your muscles, your joint capsules, any other soft tissues, including scar tissue. It takes time, but it can stretch out. One thing you might notice as you stretch this out, during a set or between sets, you might notice that you're going a little bit further. Go ahead and take it that little bit further. You got to keep deforming that tissue, keep stretching it out, putting it on tension. Then your body over time will change. It will lengthen the tissue, and that hamstring will become more flexible. So what makes this flexibility even more important with athletes, with runners, somebody with a tight hamstring like me, as you extend that out, trying to reach forward, especially as this other leg is actually further back while you're running. Now, my entire pelvis here starts to rotate this way to keep up with it. Come forward a little bit more. So this leg is back right here, this leg is forward. Now everything's getting rotated this way. My back is in a very inopportune position right here, leading up for injuries. And now I'm having to reach forward this way, and you end up losing a lot of speed with that running. So for athletes, anybody who likes to run, anybody who likes to stay fairly active, to increase this stretch, a couple things you can do. First thing, I have some weights down here. I'm gonna pick these up. We work into the same thing here. You can use those weights to get a little extra stretch coming forward. Make sure you keep that back straight there. You can go back down into that sustained hold, or as you go down with that weight, you can kind of pulse it. And back stays arched. All that movement's coming from the hip right there, trying to get down a little bit further, turning it into a little bit more of a dynamic stretch. Same thing with this dynamic stretch. You want to do about 30-second holds at a time, 3 to 5 sets there. Just trying to work into and out of that stretch. Pulsing, bouncing into it. Okay. So one other way we can stretch this muscle out in a more dynamic way is with a straight leg kick going forward. When you first start with these kicks, when you're swinging it forward, still keep that back nice and arched. You don't want to go too crazy. Just kind of get a good feel for where your limit is. And as you work into it, you can start to get a little bit more aggressive with it. The more aggressive you are with it, the more you kick, you will inevitably start to flex that back there. Don't worry too much about that. Just minimize it as best you can. So, personally, what I like to do is mix it up a little bit. Do static stretching in the morning and at nighttime. Whenever I'm weight training and the weights are available to me, I go ahead and do that dynamic stretch, bending forward. Then sometime throughout the day, I'll work on those dynamic kicks I just showed you right there. And that's the thing with stretching out any restriction in the body. It takes time. There's no one magical pop, manipulation, or anything that'll get a tissue automatically stretched out outside of doing a manipulation under anesthesia. Nobody likes that. It's not fun. The key there, taking control of your own body, stretching out these restrictions, getting things more flexible. And that's the thing with stretching out any restriction in your body. It does take some time, it does take a little bit of effort, but you have complete control and stretching things out no matter what part of the body, including that hamstrings. You just have to make sure that you're stretching it out frequently enough and you're providing enough force on it so that it will lengthen. You can't just do it for a week or so, feel discouraged because you don't see any difference, and then end. I guarantee you, if you're doing it frequently enough and you're doing it with a strong enough force, you are making a difference. It's on a microscopic level, but that microscopic change does add up over time, and over time you will see a difference. I hope everybody found this information helpful. If you did find out today that your hamstrings are tight, no questions asked, no excuses, start today. Again, I'm Mike Matthews with the PT 411. Thanks for joining me. Hey, thanks for tuning in to the PT 411. I hope you liked this video. If you did, hit the like button. If you're not already on YouTube, head on over, hit the like button there. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so you can be notified when I come out with another video. Definitely leave a comment below if there's something you'd like me to address on a future video. Thanks, guys.